Happened to get a message before I was heading out the door, asking me why I left Island Pond. Well, because I was locked out of my apartment, and I'll discuss that with you. Give me about 5 minutes and I'll be back. Hold on. The truthful answer to that is, I don't know. I really don't. I've asked several times. I called Michael Hatton. He didn't return the calls with any kind of information. Now, I do still have copies of voicemails that his number appeared and it showed that he called and left a voicemail, but all it was a click with no voicemail message, okay? So therefore, I see that as part of a game. Now, what really happened is I filed in 2019 protection from abuse and harassment and stalking against the government, the agents of the government, the state employees and agencies, as well as politicians, police, and more. I fled for my life. Why? Because I had just been harassed, terrorized, and stalked some more. With that being said, November, I had filed that information as well as lawsuits. The A-frame bolt got taken out of my car, and the A-frame dropped when I was driving down the road. That was right around the time that I had filed for protection from harassment and abuse against Mark Newell. Then, before that, the week before that, the coil spring in my Subaru had been cut. I mentioned it on Facebook, and I still have that recording as well. My phone came up missing from security at the Burlington Federal Courthouse on November 4th, 2019. I've asked several times, in fact, again in December of 2020. A guy named Ron gave me a ride to Burlington Federal Court in a snowstorm, December 17th of 2020. I went in and asked and requested my phone. Still didn't get my phone. Since then, all of my emails, my accounts were frivolously deleted, like LYME sucks 07@gmail.com was deleted. I have copies of emails that I sent from that account that prove that account existed, but it was deleted. After my 615-568-8447 number on my phone never made it out of the federal courthouse after I filed $87 billion plus multi-million lawsuits. That happened in Burlington Federal Court. Cameras everywhere. Why was I told that I couldn't take my phone upstairs when I was filing lawsuits? I wasn't in a courtroom. I was in the lobby. Why couldn't I take my phone with me? Then why did it come up missing? And being cameras everywhere, they kept on saying I had to call this guy named Jack who was a custodian. Why would the custodian have my phone? So there's some more frivolous acts that happened leading up to when I tried to come back to Vermont, natural born state, and my resident. I never changed my mailing address. Somebody changed it for me. In April of 2020, noting that it was in the newspaper that I had intent to run for state representative in that district, the house and the car came up missing with all the evidence, proof of lawsuits, and more. Personal identification. What happened to that? North Country Federal Credit Union had no business having that trailer moved. It was moved by Greniers, which is owned by Alex Grenier, which employs the people from Island Pond, Linda Yates and Neil Yates, who were involved in frivolously writing reports against myself and my daughter, who also was known to have threatened me about losing my service dog and my daughter losing custody of her son. I filed against that, and the day after I filed against it, guess what happened? Well, you see, that's what we're leading up to. the answer to your question. Why did I leave Island Pond? I stuck through the whole fight. I stuck through it all. See, it wasn't until Christmas and after Christmas and New Year's when Brianna and I went to a meeting 2 days after January 6th being Christmas. We went to a meeting 2 days after. Northeast Kingdom Mental Health Services. I still have recordings. So why is it that my daughter was not on medications and addressed the fact that she was told that she had all these diagnoses, which Chris Mitchell, Trish, and Desiree Leo all admit that it was wrong. And then they started over-medicating. They started medicating my daughter. Because you see, right after we had that meeting, we left the next day and we went for a road trip just to clear it. That's her right to do that, and that's mine as well. And Kevin continuously harassed her, stressed her out, threatened her with taking Jacoby away from her, accusing her of abandoning her like her mother did to her, is what he said. I never abandoned my kids, and I've proven that. So, then all of a sudden, Vermont State Police started filing all these reports against me and came up with a misconduct charge. The judge has already said, and I shared it here to YouTube, a copy of the hearing, audio recording of the hearing for protection from harassment that I asked for against Kevin Bickford. Why? Because he wrote false statements and made false reports against me, and Vermont State Police continued to accept those false reports knowingly and willingly. Isn't that correct? And then they conspired to come to me on March 26th with a search warrant. I'll admit, that's all on record, shared to YouTube. They told me I could not record on my phone. It got recorded elsewhere. And on my door, it clearly stated, under 24-hour surveillance and audio in my room, be in my apartment. That apartment lease was in my name. And it wasn't up until October 2021. So here we go, getting closer to the answer to your question. I get a protection from harassment order, and I went up to Maine to get away from it all. Because for some reason, the landlord, Michael Hatton, and the Vermont State Police, Jeffrey Noyce, wouldn't make him leave the apartment building. He wasn't a tenant there. The judge already said so. He was couch surfing. But because he knew people there. See, it was a kind of like a black and white and gray situation, where the judge admitted that he didn't belong there. I got it on record, Cheyenne, the landlord's wife, that he didn't belong there and the police weren't doing their job. That's shared to YouTube. Got it on record that my daughter was being abused. I also got it on record the landlord's wife, Cheyenne, acknowledging that her husband put on my door after only a couple of days of me being away from my home, which I have the fucking right to do, that he was going to lock me out, saying I abandoned my apartment. This is a repeat of history. That's what they did to me in 2007. That's what they did to me 10 years later in 2017. Then they come and they do it again in 2021. Well, when I found that note, I called Cheyenne and I asked her about it, and I audio recorded it, not by, it was by luck. Let's say that. Just like the search warrant. It was by luck. I didn't have my phone on to record it because I was talking on it. Just happened to be that my audio recording was still on and playing. I don't know if Gypsy knocked it off or Jesus, but one of them, probably, maybe. I don't know. But either way, it was recording, so I got it on audio record. Not purposely, but it happened. Thankfully. And that's how I'm blessed. Somehow, for some reason, I always get my information. They always try to destroy it. They always try to take it away from me. It's not happening very well. Yeah, I just read your message about the black eyes under my eyes. Yes. Dark circles? Yeah, they're dark. Why? Because I've been up telling everybody the stories about what's been happening. And I've been traveling. And I've made it to D.C. because I'm filing You see? The fact is, Vermont State Police obviously have been violating through conspired stories and organized crime to destroy me and my daughter so that they wouldn't be brought to light and investigated and brought to justice. I have full heart belief in that, as well as the politicians like Joe Benning, when he told the court that I somehow got his email address and didn't know how, and that I was harassing him. I wasn't harassing him. I've still got the emails I sent to him. I said he was a conflict of interest because he's in the Senate, he's a politician, and therefore he knows the Attorney General and the state's attorney that are against me, and he's not going to be beneficial to my case to prove that the Vermont State Police willingly and knowingly accepted false statements and reports against me. And then came to my house with a search warrant. That was in March. I got the restraining order against the person that was making false reports against me in April. And then in May, I got a note on the door that they were going to lock me out of my apartment. And then I got threatened by Linda Yates the day before I left the apartment to go back to Maine for Memorial Weekend. When I did that, my daughter called me and told me the cops were at their door and they had a search warrant and they were taking my grandson. Well, I was on the phone and I told her, do what you gotta do, but if I was you, I wouldn't allow them to take him, not without me, because I made that mistake. And you see, the 12 tribes in Island Pond, Vermont in 1986, look it up. Vermont State Police and DCF of Newport, Vermont did the same thing to them. They loaded all their kids, and those parents made sure they went with them to the courthouse, and they brought their children right back. Because why? Vermont continuously violated them, and they continuously are violating me and my family. So, as I said, the state police were there with DCF, and they took my grandson from my daughter. Who did they turn him over to? The ones that are committing the crimes. Okay? That's why I'm here in D.C., telling the story full-heartedly and wide open. And with that being said, right after that, they arrested Brianna. Look it up. Brianna Knights, Island Pond, Vermont. They charged her with felon charges. For what? Impeding, not allowing DCF without a struggle to take my grandson. And then they charged her even more because she had a seizure. And after she had a seizure, they put her on an involuntary hold and tried to kill her. And I say that full-heartedly, with honesty, because I fully believe that's the intent. I believe TJ Donovan is directing them to kill my daughter and to silence me by this no contact order that they continue to hold against me and Bree. So I got locked out of my apartment and I lost everything. Why? And then I've already been through 3 attorneys on the case. Why? Why is there any case at all? There shouldn't be, right? That's why I'm here in D.C. Maybe you can help me get the answers as to why they continuously harass, terrorize, and abuse me and Bree. Thank you for listening. And I hope you follow me through this trip and see what happens and make sure we get justice as we're seeking it from Washington, D.C.